I'm dead, dude.
You wake up in a white room. Nobody. No voice. Just your thoughts. And a voice says, "Welcome back. You died 73 years ago." Is this heaven, hell, or just the next software update? Right now, scientists, billionaires, and fringe philosophers are working to make that white room real. Not in some distant sci-fi future, but in our lifetime. And the question isn't, can we live forever? It's what happens to you when you do.
Oh my God.
Here's a fun fact that'll ruin your morning coffee. Ancient Chinese Emperor Qin Shi Huang took mercury pills in his quest for immortality during the 3rd century BCE, which obviously killed him faster than old age would have. Meanwhile, Egyptian pharaohs had their remains mummified to prepare for the afterlife, only to have powders made from their crushed up bones consumed by the likes of European royalty seeking health remedies in the 16th and 17th century.
Oh my gosh! Did you hear that? Oh God!
So basically, the rich have been catastrophically bad at immortality for about 2,000 years. But here's where it gets interesting. They've stopped trying to cheat death through magic potions and started treating it like a bug in the code.
What?
The pivot point happened somewhere between the invention of the defibrillator and the first computer.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
Medical technology didn't just extend life expectancy, it fundamentally refined what death means. The definitions of death change over time as medical understanding and technology improve. Your heart stops, we restart it. Your brain flatlines, well, that's where things get philosophically messy.
This is the most unusual practice. Rethink what you think you know with Charlie.
3, 2, 1. Enter the players in our modern immortality theater. Let's start up with Silicon Valley immortality startups. Because, of course, the people who broke democracy with algorithms think they can debug mortality. The super rich are investing in new ways to make death optional. And when Larry Page hires Ray Kurzweil specifically to work on life extension, well, you know we've moved beyond casual hobby territory.
Excuse me, sir. Telephone.
Then there's the underground neurohackers, the DIY crowd who figure if tech bros can do it, why not skip the venture capital and go straight to basement lab? They're building everything from homemade brain scanners to consciousness mapping software using equipment you can practically order on Amazon.
Oh shit!
Then, of course, comes the government-adjacent research labs, the ones with budgets so classified they make the Manhattan Project look like a bake sale. Because nothing says national security like making sure your country's elite never have to face mortality.
You say freak like it's a bad thing.
But here is the part no one talks about. Every single one of these approaches assumes consciousness is just really complicated software running on biological hardware. And if that is true, then death isn't really an ending. It's just a platform migration. So the uncomfortable question becomes, what if they're right? And what if the thing that gets uploaded isn't actually you, but just thinks it is?
You can't say no.
Freeze now, ask question later crowd. Alcor Life Extension Foundation has been cramming rich people into freezers since 1972, currently housing over 200 frozen heads and bodies in Arizona, charging up to $220,000 for the full body experience.
What the fuck?
Their logic? Well, if you're gonna die anyway, why not roll the dice on future technology fixing whatever killed you? Plus the whole being dead problem. But Alcor's approach is basically prehistoric compared to what came next. Nectome pitched a mind uploading service that would preserve brains by turning them into a statue of frozen glass, which sounds poetic until you realize the process is, in the words of co-founder Robert McIntyre, 100% fatal. See, the controversy got so intense that MIT severed all ties with the company when it became clear they were essentially marketing assisted suicide with a sci-fi twist. Now here's where it gets really weird. Netcom actually won a prize for successfully preserving the connectome of a dead pig. That's the complete map of neural connections in a brain. They figured out how to pickle a pig's thoughts, essentially. The question is whether those thoughts still belong to anyone when they're carved in chemical glass. Then there's the nanobots in your brain approach, microscopic devices designed to map and maintain brain activity post-mortem. Think of it as installing surveillance equipment in your skull, except the watchers are hoping to catch your consciousness red-handed before it disappears forever.
Basically, I'm just gonna walk the earth. What you mean, walk the earth? You know, like Kane in Kung Fu. Walk from place to place, meet people, get in adventures.
So why bother with meat at all? The Blue Brain Project has been trying to simulate a human brain digitally since 2005 because apparently Swiss researchers looked at the complexity of consciousness and thought, hold my coffee. The other approach is what I call simulation souls. You see, AI-trained personas built from your entire data footprint apparently exist. Every email, every search, every photo you've uploaded, every embarrassing thing you've ever liked on social media are all fed into an algorithm that learns to be you.
You've got mail.
The result? A digital ghost that knows exactly how you'd react to cat videos and existential dread. All of these approaches assume consciousness is just really fancy data processing. Therefore, this raises the question under what we call the philosophy bomb. So if a perfect copy of you wakes up tomorrow, complete with all your memories and personality quirks, are you still alive? Or did you just create the world's most expensive impersonator?
Huh?
Philosopher Derek Parfit formulated this as the teletransportation paradox. So imagine a Star Trek-style teleporter that scans your body, destroys it, and rebuilds you elsewhere using the same atoms arranged in exactly the same way. Parfit argued that personal identity isn't what matters. What matters is psychological connectedness and continuity with the right kind of cause. In other words, if it walks like you, talks like you, and remembers your 5th birthday party with traumatic clarity, maybe it is you, even if the original you got vaporized in the process. But that's cold comfort if you're the one getting vaporized. So, here's the ancient Greek version of this headache. If you replace every plank of a ship over time, is it still the same ship? Now, apply that to your brain. You see, your neurons are constantly dying and being replaced throughout your lifetime. Well, at least that's what we know today. And so therefore, the you listening to these words shares almost no brain cells with the you from 10 years ago. So who's been driving this whole time?
What the hell are you talking about?
The scary possibility is that maybe there was never a consistent you to begin with. Maybe consciousness is just a story we tell ourselves about the committee of competing voices in our damn heads.
Dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die.
Now, theoretical biologist Robert Lanza has proposed something that sounds like it came from a philosophy major on steroids, mushrooms, I don't know, but has actual scientific credentials behind it. And it's called biocentrism. So the idea is that consciousness creates reality, not the other way around. So if he's right, then death isn't the end of consciousness. It's just consciousness moving to a different channel. However, Nobel Prize winner Roger Penrose teamed up with the anesthesiologist Stuart Hammerhoff to propose that consciousness operates through quantum processes in the microtubules inside neurons. So essentially, they're arguing your brain is a biological quantum computer, and consciousness might survive physical death because quantum information doesn't follow normal rules about being destroyed. Now, an Imperial College London has been studying DMT experiences that eerily mirror reported near-death experiences. The research suggests that dying brains might naturally produce the most powerful psychedelic known to humans, creating elaborate experiences that feel more real than reality itself. So are near-death experiences glimpses of the afterlife, or just the brain's final hallucinogenic hurrah?
This legend.
The uncomfortable truth? Well, every single one of these approaches, from freezer storage to quantum consciousness, is basically a very expensive bet on something we understand approximately as well as medieval physicians understood germ theory. Now let's talk about what happens when death becomes a subscription service. As digital afterlife services become more sophisticated and costly, there's a real risk of exacerbating existing social inequalities. Wealthier individuals may have the resources to maintain elaborate digital memorials, while others are left without access to such technology. So think about this. We already live in a world where your zip code determines your life expectancy by up to 20 years. Now imagine a future where your bank account determines whether you get to have an afterlife at all. Digital immortality might also be limited based on socioeconomic disparities. Only the rich would be allowed to have this technology, and thus a new set of digital immortal elites could emerge in society. Now picture this dystopia. While the poor get buried or cremated like they have for millennia, billionaires upload themselves to custom-built digital paradises, complete with AI servants and whatever virtual reality money can buy. Death becomes not the great equalizer, but the ultimate class divider.
This is Sparta!
Now here is a thought that should terrify anyone who's lived through a particularly unpleasant political era, which is probably most of us. What happens when bad leaders refuse to step down? Forever. The more wealth you accumulate in a deeply unequal society, the more you feel yourself successful, important, and even indispensable. You begin to see yourself, in short, as God's gift to humanity. Now imagine that mentality backed by literal immortality. Putin at 500 years old. Eternal dictatorships where term limits become a quaint historical concept. We're already struggling with aging politicians clinging to power well past their cognitive prime. What happens when cognitive prime becomes theoretically infinite? But here's the psychological nightmare no one really talks about. What if consciousness wasn't meant to last forever?
Let's face it, most people's jobs aren't all that fascinating.
Researcher Chris Hackler notes.
They put in a 9 to 5 and they're glad to have the weekend. So you wonder if having twice as much of this is a good thing, or if you'd get totally burned out.
Now multiply that by infinity. Life for immortal beings would slowly develop a monotonous schedule based around needs, habits, and commitments. Day in and day out, immortal beings could expect the same tedious activities with no end in sight. Even holidays and even psychedelic trips will eventually become a mere routine. So consider this. You've already experienced roughly 10,000 days as an adult. How many of those were genuinely memorable? And how many felt repetitive? Now imagine 10 million more days ahead of you. The math of meaning does not math up. So maybe consciousness needs the boundary of death to create meaning. Maybe immortality isn't eternal bliss. It's actually eternal monotony. We've been obsessing over immortality in fiction because we intuitively understand something the Silicon Valley crowd hasn't figured out yet. Eternal life might be a curse disguised as an upgrade. Black Mirror's San Junipero gave us the soft, romantic version. Elderly lovers reunited in a digital paradise, choosing to pass over into a virtual heaven after death. It's immortality as comfort food, where the afterlife looks suspiciously like the 1980s, and everyone gets to be young and beautiful forever.
Really?
Altered Carbon went full dystopian. Consciousness as transferable commodity, where the ultra-rich swap bodies like outfits while the poor get deleted permanently. It's immortality as capitalism's final boss level, where even death becomes a luxury good. But both narratives miss something crucial. They assume the you that gets uploaded is still fundamentally you. Medieval alchemists spent centuries searching for the philosopher's stone, believing they could transmute base metals into gold and discover the elixir of life. They failed spectacularly at both, but at least they had the excuse of not understanding basic chemistry. Modern immortality researchers are essentially digital alchemists trying to transmute consciousness into code. The tools are different, but the fundamental hubris is identical. The belief that death is just another engineering problem waiting to be solved. The Egyptians mummified bodies to preserve them for the afterlife. We're now mummifying minds in digital amber. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. Except now the pharaohs wear hoodies and speak in startup pitch decks. So here we are, staring down the barrel of a future where death might become optional and consciousness might become transferable. The question isn't whether we can engineer our way out of mortality, it's whether we should want to. The central dilemma? If you can live forever, what happens to the meaning of life? Scarcity creates value. Endings create urgency. Mortality creates the pressure that transforms carbon into diamonds and ordinary moments into precious memories. Maybe the reason we fear death isn't because it's bad. Maybe it's because it's the only thing that makes life good. Think about your most meaningful relationships, your proudest accomplishments, your most treasured memories. Would they mean the same thing if you had infinite time to repeat and replace them? Would love matter if you could love everyone forever? Would achievement matter if you had eternity to achieve everything? Would you choose eternity if it meant losing the you that exists right now? Not just your physical body, but the particular constellation of experiences, limitations, and mortality that makes you you in this exact moment. Because that's what we're really talking about here. Not immortality, but the death of everything that mortality makes possible. The Silicon Valley immortalists might be onto something revolutionary, or they might be building the most expensive existential prison in human history. Either way, they're betting their lives on it. And the question is, are you willing to bet your death? Until next time, stay weird, stay curious, and do us all a favor, and do stay alive. Well, at least the way we know life to be. This was The Unusual Practice. I am Charlie signing out, none the wiser. See you guys next week.
Mom, somebody just followed me.
The real question is not whether we can think for ourselves, but whether we remember how.
Woo!
Unusual Practice. Rethink what you think you know.